You can either be taking groundwater, for example, through a pump, which doesn't belong to you. So that groundwater has been provided as a right to somebody to use on their farm or in their industry or whatever it might be, or even to water their cattle, etc. And you sink an illegal well, or even a legal well, and you take water when it's not your turn or where you don't have the right to do so. You're stealing that water. You could be, again, turning on a pump in a river system. You could be opening a gate on a canal, whatever it might be, when you're not supposed to, and it's not your water, and you're stealing that water. So it's the same as taking a car or a cow or anything else, really. And
who does stealing water hurt?
Well, predominantly the people to whom the water belongs in the first instance. And so they're not getting their supply as they expected. So that will impact on their production. It'll impact on their livestock. It may impact on their drinking supply. It also has a bigger impact on the people who manage water on our behalf. So if that water is coming out of a large storage, or even out of a river, which has been managed in the national good, then equally they're being impacted by this. And then that essentially has a flow-on impact. As I say, if it's 70 or 80% of the water being used by agriculture, that's going to put pressure on other users if additional water has got to be found elsewhere in the system to make up those losses. So really, it can impact all of us.
And whereabouts in the world is most of the theft taking place? I would think, any normal person would think it's in the largely arid areas where access to water is so valuable.
Yeah, well, that would be a good assumption. And the simple answer to your question is I really have no idea. We have such limited data on this issue. Thieves obviously aren't going around telling us what they're doing. We tend in some contexts to overlook it. And indeed, as we showed in our paper, the United States is just one context, which in some areas in California simply turns a blind eye to the issue and doesn't deal with it. So in our case, we looked at developed countries, Spain, Australia, and the US. I agree with you. I would have initially said that it was the developing nations with less advanced institutions where the problem would be greatest, and indeed that might be the case. But frankly, I think we all may know a water thief. I know I do. I used to be an irrigator, and we were aware of several people in our area that were stealing water, and as far as I know, one of them still is.
And where is that?
I'm not saying. It was in central Queensland, yeah.
So central Queensland, again, a very arid area. So people are going to find, it's an extremely valuable commodity.
It is, and I think that was what really motivated us to be very concerned as well, coming into the paper. As you say, arid areas are more likely to experience this phenomenon, but the whole world is becoming more arid. Water globally is becoming scarce and increasingly so. And so we've got to get on top of this problem if we want to ensure that it doesn't become a major issue for us going forward.
You talked initially about agricultural water being stolen. Is the theft of clean drinking water a problem as well?
Yes, it is. And I think the thing that was most interesting to me was the Californian case study, where water, clean drinking water from either fire hydrants, because that is in a sense potable, or from hose pipes, domestic hose pipes, was being stolen at an enormous amount to water marijuana crops, which are now legal in that state. And of course, the returns are very high. Getting a permit for those crops is apparently too much trouble. And so, of course, it's just easier to go and steal the water from somebody else, in a sense, a faceless, victimless crime if you're using a fire hydrant, to grow your crop, and everybody thinks that they're better off. But of course, everybody in the state has their water rights diminished. So yes, for an agricultural point of view around marijuana crops in California, yes, it's stealing domestic water in that sense. As I said before, in places like India and elsewhere where water is particularly scarce, populations are very high, yes, the theft of drinking water has, I think, long been a problem.
Dr. Adam Loch, many thanks to you for joining us on The Agenda.
A pleasure. Thank you for having me.